the information might not be something they wish to confront. But you have to confront those issues. I mean, we have people here who are touching alien spacecraft. Aztec, didn't somebody take something and hit one of the portholes with some kind of stick or something, and then it opens?
Yeah, they were trying to open the door.
Right, so they're touching this thing.
Yeah.
And then we have Jesse Marcel brings the wreckage of a possible spaceship home
for
to
his son to play with.
For his son to play with the wreckage. Might as well get some radiation poisoning from that material. The only reason you do that is because you know what you're bringing back.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuances like that about that case and others that, people just don't, it doesn't really register, I think, in some people's minds, that there would be in place, one would think, a very sophisticated and very regimented policy or some sort of, conditional awareness that is brought to a situation where there's, I would think pretty stringent protocols in place to deal with something exotic like that. And, like I mentioned on the air, I mean, we quarantined the Apollo astronauts. I think the first 3 Apollos, when those guys were, in hermetically sealed environments for a week or so, if I remember correctly. I'm not exactly sure what the time period was, but you get all the way back from the moon, and then you have to sit there in a negative pressure environment. And I guess you kind of feel like a goldfish. All these people looking in at you, and what can you do?
Well, then you're treated like a specimen. They want to make sure you're not developing the creeping rot or something from the moon, or whatever it is. That's understandable. But what is not understandable is the Roswell thing. Now, understand that this may have been the first time something like this happened, assuming it was the crash of a spaceship. So the protocols were not fully in place. I understand that, but there had to be some level of caution. This is the best of the best, the military elite at Roswell. They'd know this, wouldn't they?
Oh, you would think. But again, it's the government, so you can't assume anything.
Right. Remember, if everything is being done by the lowest bidder, don't expect anything in the sense of quality there. Of course, that might be the truth about the spaceships. The other thing that bothers me is the claim that the Roswell craft was brought down by our radar. Radar's got to be a pretty primitive thing to a race of beings who may be hundreds or thousands of years ahead of us. It's not like, say, in War of the Worlds, E.T. is brought down because he contracts a fatal disease from our microbes. Do you remember how the story works? I'm thinking of the movies, not so much the book, but the same concept. Look at the movies, the 2 versions, the one back in, the 60s and the one with Tom Cruise. The aliens get a cold. And because the aliens get a cold, they die. Of course, you think the aliens would have been smart enough to guard against that, but then we had stupid aliens. But don't assume that the troops at Roswell, New Mexico were stupid. I would think they were anything but. And if anything really landed that was alien, they would have done all sorts of things that apparently were not done. And these are the things that are being glossed over by people like Stanton Friedman. And it bothers me. You have to admit you're wrong, folks. I don't assume that everything I knew when I was 25 years old is true.
No.
Maybe 99%.
Yeah. Well, I have a little announcement to make about my upcoming weekend.
Oh, yeah. When our listeners hear this show, you're going to be in Joshua Tree, California.
Yep. I'm taking the plunge to chaos in the desert. And it's good because the 2 days I'm going to be gone, the temperature is going to spike in Camp Verde here, 107 to 109 degrees. So I'm out of the pan into the fire, I guess. It'll probably be, definitely in triple digits in Joshua Tree, but not going to be quite as hot as it's going to be here this weekend. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, well.
So anyway, my plan is to bring a video camera and kind of do a gonzo journalist approach, sort of fear and loathing in Joshua Tree, and and capture some of the color and some of the hoopla and some of the stories that I've heard, over the past 3 years of really deficient facilities, outrageously priced food. I want to get a real good visual sense of the event, put together a nice little piece, and put it on Paracast Plus.
Okay, but the only way for you to see that is to join Paracast Plus. Now, we also offer the After the Paracast podcast. We give you this show with better quality audio, commercial free. All right? And to find out more about it, go to plus.theparacast.com, plus.theparacast.com. There it is. We're welcoming back today, by the way, Walter Bosley, and he's a former agent, and he has written an interesting book that came out a short while ago called Origin, the 19th Century Emergence of the 20th Century Breakaway Civilizations. And he's kind of going against the meme, which is that the breakaway civilization was more recent. Maybe the Nazis disappeared or something happened during World War II. He's talking about something going back, I guess now, 150 or 200 years. We're going to get the details of that with Walter Bosley. And he's waiting in the wings or in his living room or somewhere.
The green room.
The green room. Boy, we're hitting the big time. We have a green room. No, we don't. A virtual green room. With Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Do you need a website? Well, you can get a great deal on hosting services with Namecheap's legendary coupon code. They're offering substantial hosting discounts on shared hosting, business hosting, VPS hosting, reseller hosting, and even dedicated servers. Namecheap is preferred by millions. It's backed by a money-back guarantee. Use the coupon code LEGENDARY to cash in on the special deal at Namecheap.com, Namecheap.com.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on our distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
Hi, I'm 54 years of age, and at Christmas time last year, a resident I take care of at work accidentally rolled over my right foot with his motorized scooter. I was backed into a corner, and he put it in reverse and did it again. The bones in my foot weren't actually broken, but damage was done. The remedy was to just let the foot heal on its own, and this was expected to take many weeks. As a caregiver, I do a lot of walking, and I was sort of okay when I was in motion. It's when I stopped to rest that I really felt the pain. The pain was there getting out of bed in the morning, too. So I got on the One World Way a few weeks back, and I just had to write this testimony. No more pain. Nothing. I can only attribute this to the One World Way since I haven't introduced anything else into my life. This product is a true godsend. It gives me energy and did whatever magic this stuff does to heal my poor foot. I will take One World Way for life. Sincerely, Holly.
Call 888-988-3325 or visit oneworldway.com. That's oneworldwhey.com.
Would you like to receive $250 to $1,000 cash per day? Go to richmoneyrich.com. No website, no selling, no explaining. Just take these simple 2 steps and go to richmoneyrich.com. You can be generating cash in the next 24 hours simply using this system. Good news is, it runs on 100% autopilot, and you don't need any experience to get started. It's easy. Get your share of easy riches and go to richmoneyrich.com. That's richmoneyrich.com. Go now. Brought to you by the Conservative Investor. Current returns not indicative of future results.
Are you worried about your mom or dad living alone in their house? Hi, I'm Joan London. Listen, I know how difficult it is to find senior care for someone you love. That's why I recommend a free service called A Place for Mom. They are the nation's largest senior living referral service. Call A Place for Mom today.
To receive free information on senior living communities in your area, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-704-6182.
A Place for Mom offers free one-on-one advice from local advisors and a personalized list of senior living communities you can visit. If you have questions about senior care for your mom or dad, there's a place for answers, A Place for Mom.
Call A Place for Mom in the next 10 minutes to get your free ebook on financing senior care as well as free information on senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-704-6182. That's 1-800-704-6182.
Looking for that edge during those intimate moments? We see many ads for enhancement, but the side effects include death. At GCN Team, we should change the Healthy Body, Brain, and Heart Pack to the Healthy Libido Pack. The brain and heart are not the only organs that require a healthy vascular system. For proper blood flow at the right moment, go to GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
I should point out, ladies and gentlemen, that Walter Bosley changed his Skype identity. Now, we understand he's a former intelligence operative. So are they trying to find you on Skype? Is that what's going on?
No, I just have, in the past, I've had a hell of a time making Skype work on old computers. So the way I remedied it was I would just create a new profile just to log on fresh. So nothing spooky about it, just my ineptitude.
Well, nothing spooky for a spook, right?
That's right. Oh, of course not. Of course not. But I have this new laptop that I got in December, and Skype works beautifully on it. So
I think that the problem with Skype is when Microsoft bought the company, they messed it up. Microsoft doesn't do well with companies. At one time, Nokia was the world's best smartphone before the iPhone came around. The iPhone was killing it in the market. So Microsoft buys the mobile division of Nokia for like $7.5 billion. And they've just been firing people right and left. If you live in Finland, one of the big employers was once Nokia. But Microsoft has been busy firing them.
I remember in the years that I was traveling internationally a lot, between 2000 and 2006, we would use cell phones, get a cell phone on each trip. And Nokia was the one. I mean, it was everywhere and everybody had one. And, I'm just wondering, are they still that big or have they faded since Microsoft took over?
Well, right now, the market share of Nokia is probably 1% or 1.5%. 97% of smartphones are either iPhones or Android.
Oh, boy.
And the big market penetration for Android is the cheap stuff. Apple is the mid to higher tier. And the rest is Microsoft with Nokia, BlackBerry. Nobody has a BlackBerry anymore. Do you remember? You must know. Everybody in the early 2000s had BlackBerries. Now they're about kaput. I mean, they have great technology. Their messaging technology is really good.
Right. Well, it's also interesting you'd mentioned that with Android having such a big market share in smartphones. Now, let's think about the Lucasfilm connection to Android. Does that mean now that Disney is logged in to that market share of the smartphone business? Well,
the thing here is Google is selling you. 90% of their income comes from targeted ads. So they build profiles of all the customers, sell them to advertisers, and that's their product. They're not making money from Android. Actually, Android was a private company, a small startup, developing mobile phone technology, and they bought up the company. And they were going to design a smartphone that fit the standard of the time, which was BlackBerry with the physical keyboard. The iPhone came around, and then they changed their tune. And it's the same thing with Samsung. If you look at the lawsuit involving Samsung, why are we talking about technology? I have no idea. I want to ask you something about Roswell because of your father's connection. Okay. This is something that bothers me, and I tried asking this question of Stanton Friedman last week, and I've mentioned I like Stanton. I've known the guy for like 30 or 40 years, and he's a great guy, and I think he's 100% sincere in everything he does. But these days, it's like playing back an old tape cassette when you ask him a question. He just repeats the standard answers. So I said, okay, you have the possibility of a crashed spaceship near Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. You have the best of the military out there. Didn't they take radiation readings of that craft? What about looking for alien microbes if they're recovering living beings? Isn't that the first thing? I was thinking, of course, of War of the Worlds, where how are the aliens defeated? They catch colds. So wouldn't you do that? And I asked him this question, and he just brushes it aside.
Yes, isn't that interesting? It might simply be that, we can assume that they would. And yeah, that's something that you would assume that they would do. And perhaps, Stanton and others, whatever tepid or whatever lack of interest response to that is, it's something you would assume they would do, and it's, just one of the details. However, I think that it's the kind of detail that would, provide a lot of data, and a potential answer. So you would think that would be, one line of pursuit, particularly for the ET hypothesis. But maybe it's inconvenient that it doesn't seem to be available as a line of pursuit. So,
well, legitimately, then we have to ask all these questions like, Jesse Marcel Sr. bringing home part of the wreckage to his family to play with. That shows the utmost in carelessness. How do you do that unless you knew what that material was and that it was safe? And the only way for it to be safe would be a conventional object or a balloon or something.
Well, good point. Good point. I mean, are you going to bring it home, and expose your wife and child or anybody to that? And it was 1947, so it's not like, these guys weren't aware of the dangers of radiation, right? So that's a very good question. Why would someone bring that material, into their home environment if it wasn't safe? So that right there, that, as you point out, that might be the evidence that it was done and there was no radiation. So,
well, that indicates they knew what it was. It could be a test aircraft. It could be a balloon. It could be sent by the Breakaway civilization or something.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You're right. That might be an indicator of absolutely that they knew what it was. But did Marcel know? That's the whole question. How much did he know? What did he know? How much of it was him, wanting to wow the kid? But I think, people have explored that idea enough, and it's been determined that he was very sincere in what he was, telling his son, based on what we know, what we can know about it. So maybe he didn't know exactly what it was, but maybe someone higher up the line did, which, I'm in that camp. I think they certainly did know who it was, what the source was.
We talked about this a long time ago. I'm going to ask you in our next segment, your dad's Roswell connection. Just briefly, then I want to get into your book. Okay. Let's do that in our next segment. We've got Walter Bosley, and the book that we're going to be talking about is Origin, the 19th Century Emergence of the 20th Century Breakaway Civilizations. But first, let's wrap this up, especially in light of Stanton Friedman and his efforts to avoid the issue last week. With Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pileski of the Pileski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
Hunters, anglers, campers, and survivalists. Get back to nature. Expand your horizons with the highest quality, most versatile, unique slingshots and sling bows on the market at slingbow.com. Sling bow products are compact and models start from just $17.98. They're perfect for your bug out bag or storing in your vehicle. Give yourself and your loved ones the excitement and tradition of sling bow. A new frontier in archery and truly modern twist on this primitive survival tool. Feel the thrill only at slingbow.com.
Dangerous blood clot device alert. If you or a loved one had an IVC filter placed to prevent blood clots from traveling to your heart or lungs and suffered an injury, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. The FDA warns that IVC filters may cause serious complications, such as heart or lung damage, internal bleeding, and even death. These dangerous blood clot devices can break, and the metal fragments can travel to your heart or lungs, causing serious injuries. If you or a loved one suffered organ damage or other injuries from an IVC filter, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Act now. Time is limited to file a claim. For a free consultation and free information, call Injury Help Desk at 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. This is an advertisement. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. InjuryHelpDesk.com is responsible for this advertisement. Principal office, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Hi, Peter Vaccaro for ParanormalDate.com. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places? Now you have a chance to change that by signing up for free at ParanormalDate.com. This incredible dating site puts people of like minds together. People who are interested in the strange, the unusual, mysteries, ghosts, UFOs, and the afterlife, and so much more. ParanormalDate.com was developed for you, people seeking a viable alternative to the other dating services. You can join for free by going to ParanormalDate.com, and if you decide you like it and want to connect with people, use the code GEORGE for a substantial discount. Mark Rawlings, president of ParanormalDate.com, says so many people hunger to share their experiences about the paranormal, the unexplainable, or the afterlife, and so much more, and this is the source for them to meet and share that common interest. So sign up for free at ParanormalDate.com, ParanormalDate.com, and use the code GEORGE if you decide to connect with someone you like.
The following is an incredible, life-changing free offer for anyone with hearing problems who wants to start hearing everything more clearly again. We're now offering free in-home trials of a revolutionary hearing breakthrough called Listen Clear to anyone who calls this special toll-free number now. 1-800-957-9364. Call in the next 10 minutes and you'll also qualify for free shipping and free batteries for life. Listen Clear is precisely designed by top audio engineers. It adjusts to let you find the perfect way to hear everything, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. And Listen Clear is so invisible, people may not even know you're wearing it. And it's so lightweight, you may even forget you're wearing it too. Don't miss this special life-changing opportunity to hear everything more clearly again for free with a 100% free in-home trial, free shipping, and even free batteries for life. For free information, call now. 1-800-957-9364. That's 1-800-957-9364. 1-800-957-9364.
Hi, this is Don Ecker, and you are tuned into the Paracast. Let me tell you what, you're going to hear stuff here that you probably won't hear anywhere else. Hear that, George Snorri?
So we're back with Walter Bosley, coping with a recalcitrant Skype connection and issues that poor Walter had with his computer.
Yeah, just as I finished saying that I have a brand new computer virtually, and Skype works beautifully on it. You know, what are we to think of that?
Well, this was something you got from the Home Shopping Network, right?
Yeah, it was a gift, and I increasingly have learned that, when you go buy a laptop from Best Buy or somewhere else, there's some basics that are already ready to go, and I'm learning this particular one off HSN. There's so many basics that I'm having to activate, and I too often find out that I need to activate them when I'm in the middle of using one of the applications, and suddenly it shuts down on me. So this one apparently is the sound card, but I think the update they did when I restarted seemed to fix the problem.
There is always a Windows update. What bothers me is that Microsoft is out there tricking people to upgrade to Windows 10, and they've even got, I'll just mention this because we have people who use Windows computers on this show and my technology show. They have a trick now where you click an X in a dialogue, which normally is to dismiss, to close a box, dismiss it. It triggers the Windows 10 update. Get a load of that.
Yeah.
Watch out, folks. I mean, I'm not saying Windows 10 is bad, but if you're offered Windows 10, do it on your own terms. Don't let Microsoft trick you. That's it. Let's get back into Roswell. Your dad, what was his connection to Roswell?
A briefing. When he was in the Air Force in the late 50s, he was working in really the early days of the Mercury program. His unit at former George Air Force Base up here in Hesperia, California, the high desert. His unit, a physiological training unit, was the unit that was selected to do the ground testing in altitude chambers for the Mercury spacesuit, the pressure suit, the famous silver one that you recall from the movie The Right Stuff. And so he had a clearance that was pretty high because he was working on issues directly related to America's space program. He had been back east in Alabama at Gunner Air Force Base, involved in training pilots and briefing Air Force personnel on matters related, when he and a couple other guys from his unit were sent to Texas, got on a plane to head to Texas to one of the bases there for some other briefing issue. Somewhere over Louisiana, the airplane made a northward banking turn. An officer came out of the forward cabin and explained to them that they were not going to Texas. They were going to Wright-Patterson in Ohio. Once they got there, he says they were briefed in on what happened in Roswell, roughly 10 or 11 years prior. From there, he and the two guys from his unit were then sent out to Arizona, a specific location. All I know is it was in the vicinity of Winslow, an underground location where they were part of the retrieval of the pilot's crew or whatever of another crash, which he was told, and this is what he told me, what he was told is that it was essentially a hidden civilization here on Earth in the underground, and that's what Roswell had been. It was the people from the underground. He was told it had happened again. They were shown one of the bodies, or the body that was being stored at Wright-Pat. There it is. For what it's worth, he was very sincere telling this story.
How old were you when he told you this story?
He started talking about this issue in the mid-'70s, prior to that first Roswell book by Bill Moore, a couple of years prior, 3 or 4 years prior. And, over the years, he would tell, me a little bit more about it. But I learned the most about it after I was already working for the government myself. And he was sick in 92. My dad had a heart transplant in the early 90s. And before that, when a blood clot had put him in the hospital, he was heavily sedated and was, gibbering about stuff. And he was talking about, things related to this underground experience. And I thought, whoa, what's he talking about here? And I learned from my mentor who died recently, by the way, who spent, 44 years in the intelligence community himself and was the guy that brought me in and kind of opened the doors and made my career happen. He informed me to a degree of what my dad was talking about. And, over the years, I talked to him more about it. And I will say that even though he told me this story over several years, it remained consistent. Even if he gave me, more info as the years went on, it was never it was never in that vein of contradicting anything he had said in the past. Of course, people ask me, well, do you believe it? Do you think that? But, well, I'll tell you, this is the first public mention I made of this, but my new book that I'm writing is about what my dad told me. For the first time, I'm really diving into that to analyze it and present, more details, as many details as I can get on it, and what I think about that.
Well, I'm really interested in how much we know about this particular underground civilization, or how much you're privy to. I have an interesting case of a very, very reliable source that was attached to expanding the Los Alamos lab. Underground, was actually an underground demolition expert, and his team broke into what he described as an ancient antediluvian tunnel system that was obviously 10, 12,000 years old and obviously manufactured, and went quite a distance. And they literally went as far as they could before they had to turn around so they could get back by the end of their shift. And, of course, they were told not to say anything about it. The team was broken up, and his particular new assignment was digging a tunnel from the lab up to the Dulce area, which I've always found very compelling. And again, this comes from a source. His son was a postmaster for the lab for many years. So I'm just wondering, what is the extent of our knowledge about this civilization? How close genetically are they to humans? Did they develop separately? How far down do they go? Do they go into the Earth's mantle? I mean, what was he able to divulge to you about the actual makeup of these beings and the level of their technology?
What my dad told me, based on what he says he was briefed in and what he was told, and this was backed up by my mentor, I'll add. In fact, I got two different pieces of information here that I'll go into, a set from my dad and then a set from my mentor. What my dad was shown and told is that they're basically us. They're human beings who, around, again, there's that number, 10 to 12,000 years ago, they went underground during a surface cataclysm. Well, a lot has been written about that and discussed about that.
Well, that sounds like Deros and Tiros.
It sounds like it, yeah. It sounds like it. I didn't want to venture into shaver territory, but I am in the book. But he says that they're human beings that went underground and stayed there, and their civilization developed separate from ours, and that he was told that they really want little to nothing to do with us. It's just that they came to us because I guess the experience with the Roswell thing, whatever the details actually were, that according to my dad, what he was briefed in on, what he says he was briefed in on, they came to us for help to find their pilot or their crew in this late 50s crash in eastern Arizona. Now, what my mentor...
Now, I'm going to stop you here, and we'll go on to the rest of the answer. We've got more to come. We're exploring breakaway civilizations. What were they? What are they doing today? Right now, the early days, the Roswell connection with Walter Bosley and Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Conspiracy Journal is your #1 source for the hidden world of the weird and strange. We bring you thought-provoking and controversial material for free-thinking individuals who are seeking what is really going on in our world today. Some of this material may adversely affect you. Other pieces are meant to enlighten. Either way, be prepared to be intrigued by such things as the reality of UFOs, ghosts, strange creatures from time and space, hidden conspiracies, time travel, Nikola Tesla, suppressed technology, and a whole lot more. You can find out more by visiting our website at conspiracyjournal.com. There you can sign up for our free weekly newsletter sent directly to your email address. Find out what they don't want you to know.
This is an alert. If your business or church is building this year, you're about to pay more than you should. This could mean thousands of dollars more for your office, retail space, church, or warehouse. A General Steel building can save you as much as half the cost and time of similar conventional construction. And we're offering rebates of up to $20,000 to help you build today. Call General Steel for free information that could save you thousands. Call 866-91-STEEL. 866-91-STEEL. 866-91-STEEL.
Ted Anderson telling you about Jordan Rubin's Beyond Organic Green-Fed Raw Cheddar Artesian Cheese featuring whole milk created through ancient dairy breeding, unpasteurized, untreated whole milk on the same farm the cows graze, containing natural sources of omega-3s, CLA protein, calcium, probiotics, and enzymes. I have never tasted cheese this good, and you need to try it. Contact your Longevity distributor or call 877-878-4203 or go to gcnteam.com.
So you've got to take a state construction license exam or certification. Can't decide on what books or what chapters to study? Discover right now how you can eliminate unnecessary books and wasted study time. At contractorexam.com, our study materials zero in on state-required test topics in an effective, multiple-choice format. So whether you're a plumber, electrician, general contractor, or other construction-related trade, contractorexam.com will help get you prepared. Visit us at www.contractorexam.com today.
I'm Nick Soboleski, a Select Quote agent with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a $300,000 group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and can't take it with him. Well, I impartially shopped the highly rated term life insurance companies we represent and found Ray, who is 41 and takes medication to control his cholesterol, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $26 a month. That's almost twice the coverage for less than half of what he had paid. If SelectQuote hasn't shopped for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 1-800-403-4885. That's 1-800-403-4885. 1-800-403-4885. Or go to SelectQuote.com. We shop, you save. Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Your price can vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
Hi, this is Bryce Abel. I'm the producer of Dark Skies, the co-author of AD After Disclosure, and you are listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
All right. I didn't mean to interrupt you
That's
for
okay.
a break, but them's the laws.
You got to do those things. So now, what my uncle, one of the things he told me that has been very interesting to me over the years, and in the late 80s, early 90s, I think it was the early 90s because I was in New York, so it had to have been sometime around 90, 91. He told me that there had been another chamber at Carlsbad in New Mexico that had been discovered that they had not divulged yet. He said that this, and it was huge. It was much bigger than the big one that the tourists would be shown. And he told me that this had been explored, discovered, I guess, in the sometime during the 50s. And
1 second, please, Walter. Your uncle this time, what was his connection to what your father was doing?
You mean direct connection?
Or is this something where he's relating what your father might have told him?
No. This is my uncle had been in the Army. He went into the Army in the 50s. He was Special Forces. He was 101st Airborne. He was brought into the intelligence community early in his Army career. And I believe in the late 50s he would have been still mostly attached to the Army, but doing intelligence work. There's some things about his career I can't really divulge, but you can, people can do some math and, figure out, the basics. But he was aware of the details of my dad's career, and he would tell me a little bit, and he would encourage me later in my dad's life to get him to tell me more about it, because by that time I had a clearance that I could talk to him about these things if he chose to. But anyway, going back to the what my uncle told me about Carlsbad, and this was in the early 90s, that they had discovered this chamber that was, again, it was huge, and it was bigger than the big one that they had been showing tourists for years, but they had kept it classified. Among the things they found in there were relics of some past civilization, and he stated that in a general way, other than a particular piece of technology that had to do with a pair of spectacles. Before I get into that, or before you ask about that, let me finish the thing about the cavern. It was a few years after he told me about this other chamber at Carlsbad that the Department of the Interior actually revealed that and said, oh, this has been, recently discovered. Well, he had told me that it had been discovered in the 50s. When I talked to him about it again, he said, yeah, they've known about that for a lot longer than they're letting on. And you can find this. I could dig it up and send you the link even to the article on when they came public with this huge chamber. So that I offer that as kind of a corroboration of at least, part of the story that my uncle had told me in the early 90s before DOI revealed this.
Well, in light of that, I think it's interesting that isn't that where the whip site is, that they're taking all the nuclear waste from the national labs in New Mexico and trucking it down there and storing it underground?
I doubt they'd be doing it at Carlsbad just simply because of the, the tourism aspect of it, but
it's down there in that cave complex somewhere, the whip site.
Really? Oh, I'm not familiar with that particular site. Wow. Wow, that kind of surprises me that they would but then again, hey, this is why we have the Paracast, right?
We try to figure out what other people can't figure out, but let's go back in time. Supposedly humans, 10, 12,000, 13,000 years ago, retreated into these caves. Why?
Because the surface was deadly at that time. There was some cataclysmic events going on. Yeah, the water, the flooding, all sorts of stuff. They had to for survival.
Okay, so that takes us back to the Shaver story. Unfortunately, that's the core of the Shaver story.
Oh yeah, and don't get me wrong. Like I said, in fact, I was just reading a bunch of Shaver material last night because, like I said in the new book, I have to look at this. I have to examine it. I have to cover it. Any examination of what we're talking about here, you have to look at the Shaver material. And what's interesting is, since you bring it up, is he did an interview in which he stated that he admitted what Palmer. And he said that he and Palmer were good friends and remain so. But Palmer had sensationalized the stuff, of course, and kind of presented it in a way that he had not intended. So, yeah, you would have to think that there's some type of core or nugget of whatever the truth might be that Shaver was operating on.
Now, supposedly, Shaver claims that when he finally admitted the fact that he was railroaded into a mental institution for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the story.
Right, yeah. In fact, he was in mental institutions a couple of times in his life.
Understand here, as you probably know, and our listeners know because I've mentioned it, that my first wife, Geneva, and I knew Shaver fairly well.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. I wasn't aware of that.
I interviewed him for my magazine in the early 1970s. He had a cottage in Summit, Arkansas. Beautiful cottage where he and his wife lived. Mm-hmm. And I think he died in his late 60s or something. Mm-hmm. But he had this very sly sense of humor. Mm-hmm. And you got an indication about that where I was asking him a question, well, what are you going to do next? That was my question, roughly speaking, the final question of the interview. He said, I'm just going to get a cigarette.
Oh, I love it.
I also had met Ray Palmer once in the 60s, talked to him on the phone 4 or 5 times after that. He died in the latter part of the 70s. Mm-hmm. So I knew them. I knew people who knew Palmer, like Otto Binder, who was a famous science fiction writer and comic book writer. You know, he wrote for the original Shazam, Captain Marvel. He created or co-created Supergirl, that kind of thing. I've mentioned it on the show before. But I found Palmer and Shaver, especially Palmer, to be a fascinating character. But unfortunately, Shaver never really wrote that true autobiography. He was prolific as hell over the years. I mean, you write him and you get pages and pages of material. Mm-hmm. So I think, you know, based on what you're saying, you're playing the same game here that Shaver was playing. You both tapped into the same thing. But these beings who went underground, they're still, is that the breakaway civilization? Because your book Origins talks about something from the 19th century. So is that the same thing or two separate
It's
episodes?
a separate thing. The breakaway civilizations of my book Origin, the 19th century breakaways, are two different, those are different things from this lost ancient civilization. Now, the lost technology of the forgotten civilization, I think, is what these humans that went underground 10 to 12,000 years ago, I think this is what they got their hands on and continued to develop. But as far as the two groups that emerged in the 19th century, those are surface groups. Those are, you know, of course, the German group and the American group, what I call, you know, the 1903, the American group. They're separate from this underground civilization.
Now, the original underground civilization, would we regard them as human today if we saw them?
Yes. Based on my dad's description, they're us, essentially. They're us, just a group of us that went underground and stayed there, according to him.
And probably have incredible spray tan technology.
Oh, yeah.
You'd be kind of pasty white, web-fingered, have bulging eyes, kind of look like Spiegel in Lord of the Rings, I would imagine.
Yeah. He did say that, you know, they had their other senses had been developed. These people he encountered because of being down underneath there and the issues with vision, which doesn't match what some of the you know, the other lore says, which, you know, you get down there far enough and there's this whole central sun idea. But I'm more of, I don't want to say an advocate of, but I lean towards the vast habitable cavity theory as opposed to the traditional hollow earth ball theory.
We'll get back more into the underworld, what's going on there, with Walter Bosley and Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
The best kept secret in the firearms business is CDNNsports.com. CDNN Sports is the largest firearms liquidator in the U.S. We've got optics, accessories, gun parts, magazines, ammunition, and more. Sign up for our email specials today for the best gun deals, period. You will also be entered to win a Winchester 101 field shotgun. Go to Charlie, Delta, November Sports.com. That's CDNNsports.com.
No other network provides the level of customer service we do. When it comes to radio advertising, we are your one-stop shop. And no matter how big or small your business is, we can help. Email us at advertise@gcnlive.com, and an experienced advertising executive will help you take the first step towards driving more customers to your business or website. Advertise@gcnlive.com. Easy, affordable, effective.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
You notice how Grumpy Chris takes on a under-earth aspect as we progress. All right, they have heightened senses.
Yeah.
In what sense? Which is a
well,
bad pun.
Think about it. Like a bats develop, really good sonar, sense of hearing, so to speak, because vision is limited. So the eyes aren't so. And honestly, I do not know how this plays into here. They have this technology and they're flying these things around. I mean, I couldn't tell you how that plays into that. All I can say is what my dad told me. What's interesting about that technology is the description of what he said that the guy wielded. He wielded a tube about a foot long, 12 or so inches long, this what looked like just a tube, and he had pointed it at the guy, the Air Force guy standing next to my dad, and it essentially shut the man down. It killed him. But it was like he just flipped off the electro impulses of the human body, and the guy just dropped dead on the ground beside him. And what's interesting is when you read the Shaver material and all this other material, the fiction that has been written in the Hollow Earth stories and stuff, they talk about that very thing, these tubes or these crystal things. And in my book, I'm exploring the fact that did indeed exist in this literature, and I'll be analyzing, did my dad get this from that? Or, is it something that is true and real, and the people who had written the fiction had, some source or access to what was really down there? It's questions I'll be exploring, that I am right now in my research.
Now, I understand here a lot of the fantasy fiction covered some of this. One example is Edgar Rice Burroughs, who posited a civilization under the earth in his Pellucidar stories. But then they would go through the holes at the poles, which Palmer later grabbed and used for his own.
Actually in Burroughs, David Innes and Abner Perry, they did that drilling machine, if you recall, that molding thing, because by the time Burroughs wrote those books, his first Pellucidar book, the polar explorers had already, pretty much found and proven that there were no giant holes at the poles. So
I remember the early books, and they went like a balloon or something to the inner earth from the holes at the poles.
No, not Burroughs, because
yes, absolutely. You read the first Pellucidar story. Look it up.
It was at the Earth's core, and they do a drilling machine. The big drill is on the nose cone.
Yeah, I think it was Jules Verne that had him going in a balloon, wasn't it?
Yeah, that does sound like Verne, but by the time by the time Burroughs was doing his, the polar exploration had already, and I don't mean to be a pain in the butt about this and contradict, but I just got done researching this stuff and reminding myself and pulling out my old Burroughs books. So that's why it's fresh in my mind.
Well, I know they tried to make movies from it, and they didn't come out too well.
Right. Oh, the At the Earth's Core movie, it's just wonderfully god-awful.
You see, this is a problem. Other than Tarzan, which rarely covered the actual character the way he was portrayed in the book. True. Although I think there's a Tarzan remake now that tries to do it.
Yeah.
Now, rather than debate this any further, I did look it up. You know, Tarzan went to the Earth's core. In Tarzan at the Earth's core, he went to Pellucidar, and the way he got there was an airship constructed to penetrate Pellucidar via the natural polar opening connecting the outer and inner worlds. In other words, the holes at the poles. Let's drop it there, okay? All the stuff that Burroughs wrote, they did very badly with. They brought John Carter to a movie, Disney, but they spent a lot of money in the special effects. It wasn't a bad movie, but the marketing, they had no clue. They had no clue how to sell this thing, and I think if they maybe pushed it a little better.
Well, there's been a book written about the controversy, potential scandal of what Disney did to that John Carter movie, because when they were in the middle of development going into production, Disney then buys Lucasfilm. And there was one particular executive who just really wanted this John Carter thing to go away. He was all turned on about now they own Star Wars, and he's more excited about Star Wars. And it's a whole thing. I think the book is titled The Gods of Mars, and it's all about how Disney apparently tanked their own film. And then the irony is, it turns out the year that it was released on DVD, it was the #1 selling DVD movie of that year. So now there's even talk about maybe doing another John Carter film. But, finally at last, when Burroughs is getting a big budget treatment, the darn studio screws it up and drops the ball.
It seemed the way that John Carter went to Mars is very different in the book, because it was almost like a remote viewing kind of thing where he's lying. His body is lying on Earth, but somehow he transports himself, his essence, to Mars, whereas in the movie they were using some kind of machine.
You're right. In the film, there was some type of technology. It's been a while since I've seen the film.
There was some medallion or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was something like that. Whereas Gene's, right, in the book, it was all mind power. He was able to send his physical self there.
He wished to go to Mars. He wished himself to go to Mars.
When you wish upon a planet.
It was like he sent a facsimile. He faxed himself.
Yeah.
To Mars.
Well, when it comes to underground fantasy and stories, my favorite was always the Turok, Son of Stone, which one of our listeners sent me every issue of that comic book. I remember I just loved those comic books when I was a kid.
Well, and I've been looking for, in the 70s, when putting Burroughs out was popular with all those Frazetta covers. And, there was a series called Gore. You remember that? G-O-R is how it was spelled. But Gore was kind of a combination, I don't want to call it a ripoff, but of Burroughs and Robert E. Howard's Conan. There was all that good stuff, and it just kind of...
So the superhero was battling global warming?
What? Oh, wrong Gore. This Gore was more of the, the Conan, John Carter mix, you could say. Scantily clad native ladies on the covers and monsters, just like the Burroughs and the...
Well, the hotter it gets, the more the clothes come off,
That's right. That's what they say.
Well, they had all these creatures running around in loincloths and everything. He had this thing about everybody has loincloths. John Carter and the people who went down to Pellucidar, and Carson of Venus, I think, did the same thing there. Of course, Venus, it was so hot your hair would boil, but then, what can I say?
That's what they tell us anyway.
Turok and his sidekick were in breechcloths, I remember.
Yeah, they tell us Venus is too hot to be there, but do we really know?
It might be a complete mistake. You almost think when you read some of these Pulp Fiction stories that maybe Doc Savage had some relationship to A Hidden Place. Mm-hmm. They're making a movie, by the way, of Doc Savage featuring The Rock.
Well, I hope that it happens because, there's been talk of that off and on for a few years, and that could be really cool.
So, neighbors, are you getting a little bit tired of pushing or tapping the fast-forward button when you listen to the Paracast? Maybe you're not in favor of commercials. Well, we have a way of getting rid of them for subscribers of the Paracast Plus. Just check out plus.theparacast.com. That's plus.theparacast.com. Here's how it works. You sign up, you get the special version of the show with higher resolution audio, free of the network ads. You also get the After the Paracast podcast, which is a special show for a half hour or an hour, and we feature extended interviews, we feature color commentary, we feature whatever occurs to us. That's what makes After the Paracast unique, and it's uncensored, by the way, neighbors. I won't get into any more of that. Uncensored. We also have show transcripts. We're going to start the classic episodes very shortly, commercial-free. Lots more to come. Plus.theparacast.com, plus.theparacast.com. We'll cover Doc Savage and more with Walter Bosley and Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Do you need a website? Well, you can get a great deal on hosting services with Namecheap's legendary coupon code. They're offering substantial hosting discounts on shared hosting, business hosting, VPS hosting, reseller hosting, and even dedicated servers. Namecheap is preferred by millions. It's backed by a money-back guarantee. Use the coupon code LEGENDARY to cash in on the special deal at Namecheap.com, Namecheap.com.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
Hi, Peter Vaccaro for ParanormalDate.com. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places? Now you have a chance to change that by signing up for free at ParanormalDate.com. This incredible dating site puts people of like minds together. People who are interested in the strange, the unusual, mysteries, ghosts, UFOs, and the afterlife, and so much more. ParanormalDate.com was developed for you, people seeking a viable alternative to the other dating services. You can join for free by going to ParanormalDate.com, and if you decide you like it and want to connect with people, use the code GEORGE for a substantial discount. Mark Rawlings, president of ParanormalDate.com, says so many people hunger to share their experiences about the paranormal, the unexplainable, or the afterlife, and so much more, and this is the source for them to meet and share that common interest. So sign up for free at ParanormalDate.com, ParanormalDate.com, and use the code GEORGE if you decide to connect with someone you like.
There's nothing more enticing and intoxicating than the finest meat cooking on an open flame. Freeze-dried meat from newharvest.com is U.S. grown, 100% all-natural with no extra fillers. Just grass-fed beef and free-range chicken guaranteed to stay fresh and delicious. Add New Harvest freeze-dried meats to your current food storage. You'll buy direct from the factory, not a third party, ensuring the best price and the highest quality. See all our products at newharvestfoods.com. That's newharvestfoods.com.
If you have sleep apnea and you're tired of dragging around your big, bulky home CPAP device wherever you travel, what I'm about to tell you may sound too good to be true. MiniCPAP.com now offers a portable device that's as small as a soda can and weighs less than a pound. Even better, you can try Transcend absolutely risk-free for a full 10 days. Call us now, 1-800-940-5473. Transcend is the world's first portable mini CPAP device. It gives you the freedom to sleep in total comfort anywhere you are. For even more freedom, you can add a battery that's as tiny as a deck of cards. Transcend is so small and so light you can fit it in your briefcase or purse to use anywhere you go. It's FAA compliant too, so you can even sleep comfortably while flying. It's true. You can enjoy the freedom to sleep comfortably anywhere, anytime you want. Call minicpap.com now for your 10-day in-home trial. 1-800-940-5473. That's 1-800-940-5473.
Are you worried about how dangerous the world has become? In these days of terrorist attacks, natural disasters, or even a future collapse, you need to be medically prepared to keep your family safe. I'm Joe Alton, MD of store.doomandbloom.net, where you'll find an entire line of uniquely designed medical kits and supplies for when help is not on the way. For everything from individual first aid kits to the ultimate family medical bag, go to store.doomandbloom.net today. That's store.doomandbloom.net. You'll be glad you did.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Now, The Rock as Doc Savage. Now, they say that because it was one of the early characters, Street and Smith Publications in the early 30s, that a lot of the ideas later crafted into Superman came from Doc Savage. Now, Street and Smith, by the way, also premiered the fictional character who influenced Batman, and that, of course, was the Shadow.
Yes.
Right. Well, wouldn't it be Rock Savage? Wouldn't that be get around some copyright issues? Just call him Rock Savage.
Does he go by The Rock still, or is he Dwayne now and everything?
He still goes by both. A credit says Dwayne Johnson.
No.
But everybody calls him The Rock.
It's just not a Hollywood name, though. Dwayne. It's just, I don't know. It just doesn't. We're a wrestling hero named Dwayne.
It's why he called himself The Rock.
Whereas Doc Savage's real name was Clark Savage, and that's where Clark Kent came from.
Oh, okay.
Clark Savage Jr., and when they created this superhero character, they made him Clark Kent in his civilian life.
I love tracing the influences of popular literature and film and stuff. It's always fun to examine that and watch the development of, the later, something crystallizes into, the concept that's the big success. Like, Indiana Jones, of course, was the crystallization of a lot that came before that. And it's always fun to see how that develops. A few years ago, a company did reprints of the old Street and Smith original publications of the Doc Savage stories. And they were available for a while, but now they are very hard to find.
It's interesting, though, too, that when you research, say, Burroughs and his influences for Pellucidar, he was looking into early literature about a hollow earth.
Yes.
A lot of times they took fact and they crafted their fiction from it. So this is something that's been going on for years and years about an under-earth civilization.
Exactly.
With all sorts of strange capabilities. And when we get back to the Roswell thing, inevitably we're circling back to that. All right, your father was told about the breakaway civilization. Therefore, the government knows who and what they are.
He was told about the what I refer to as the lost civilization, the lost people. Yeah. Okay,
so the government knows what's going on here.
That's I agree with that. In my opinion, it seems like they would have to. It makes sense that they would. Look at all the underground. This is part of the research on my new book. Also, I've really gotten into the, looking at the available information that's out there on the underground bases and stuff. They've done so much down there, and then based on what my uncles told me, of course they know about them. And
so, do you, Walter? Do you think there's a complete underground, transportation system? That sort of thing that's been suggested by some of the, more conspiratorial Hollow Earth people?
Here's where I'm at right now. This has intrigued me for many years. And at heart and my gut I lean towards that camp, that there's something here. There's something going on down there that, we don't know about that would amaze people. Now, to the extent that there is some global, almost underground, subterranean, rail system. I don't know about that. I don't know if I'm convinced of that. Now, that's beside the point that it's very possible, it appears possible that, our government since World War II has built something like that would surprise us all probably as to its extent, to move missiles around and personnel from one underground installation to another. But, that's just stretches of 100 miles or so. That's not a whole global thing. And in my Burton book, the Lost Expedition of Sir Richard Francis Burton, I talk about some of the problems with this ancient tunnel system is, how much of it is still intact with various, earthquakes and shifting of the continents. How much of it would still be connected, or would it be big chunks that have been disconnected? So, you have to consider issues like that. Yeah, where I'm at on this is my gut tells me at this point in my studies and what I know is that there's, to some degree, I suspect there's something down there, but to what extent I can't say.
Well, we have a question from Greer's Meeting Planner. I love that name.
Uh-huh.
And he wants to know if you could tell us who the current head of the Breakaway civilization is, because Mr. Greer would like to meet him and brief him on the reality of the UFO phenomenon for a small fee, of course.
Oh, that's some good humor there.
Well, it's Greer's Meeting Planner, so he's trying to set up a meeting, I guess.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's good. Next question?
Well, we'll get to more questions later. I just had to kind of throw that in since we were talking about the Breakaway civilization and its possible links to some sort of subterranean presence. You've noticed, I'm sure, in your research, Walter, that almost every major culture and on the planet has a tradition of underground dwelling intelligent beings, whether they be reptilian types with the Nagas or insectoid types like the ant people from the Southwest public tradition, to the moon-faced people that escaped the Cherokee and were chased underground, for instance. And you can go around the world. It's in Africa. You have traditions among the Aborigines in Australia. There's even, I think, some talk about lava tube dwelling diminutive beings in Hawaii.
In Europe and the British Isles, too.
And there's supposedly a tunnel system that goes from Scotland to Greece or Turkey. Yeah. I don't know how they got under the Bosphorus, but that's a whole other question. Where do you see the tie-ins possibly originating from? Do you think that this possible subterranean civilization became high-tech and more advanced than the surface dwellers did, and possibly developed high technology maybe millennia before we did? Or, I mean, what does your research tell you about connecting points?
My research, as I've laid out in Origin and I touched on in the Burton book before that, is basically my position is this, is that a long, long time ago, this other race comes here, they bring from another planet, wherever. They come here, they bring their civilization's technology here, and then at the point that they leave or fall or whatever, at the point that they go away, they have left behind remnants of this. Also with the Earth-based human civilization that they have managed to bring up to a certain level. And in my opinion, at this point in time, is that Earth-based civilization that had been brought up by this off-world civilization, they then picked up the baton and continued with developing this technology.
We've got more to come with Walter Bosley and Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Would you like to receive $250 to $1,000 cash per day? Go to richmoneyrich.com. No website, no selling, no explaining. Just take these simple 2 steps and go to richmoneyrich.com. You can be generating cash in the next 24 hours simply using this system. Good news is it runs on 100% autopilot, and you don't need any experience to get started. It's easy. Get your share of easy riches and go to richmoneyrich.com. That's richmoneyrich.com. Go now. Brought to you by the Conservative Investor. Current returns not indicative of future results.
Are your Google search results killing you? Unflattering content in blogs, news articles, online reviews, social media, or other sources can jeopardize your reputation, your business, and your livelihood. Let Reputation.com help. Our patented technology will make the truth about you more visible while pushing down unwanted negative content. Improve your Google search results. Call Reputation.com at 1-800-831-0771 for a free consultation. That's 800-831-0771. Dangerous blood clot device alert. If you or a loved one had an IVC filter placed to prevent blood clots from traveling to your heart or lungs and suffered an injury, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. The FDA warns that IVC filters may cause serious complications, such as heart or lung damage, internal bleeding, and even death. These dangerous blood clot devices can break, and the metal fragments can travel to your heart or lungs, causing serious injuries. If you or a loved one suffered organ damage or other injuries from an IVC filter, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Act now. Time is limited to file a claim. For a free consultation and free information, call Injury Help Desk at 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. This is an advertisement. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. InjuryHelpDesk.com is responsible for this advertisement. Principal office, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Hi, this is Sophie Winnick, longtime distributor and user of Longevity products. In the last few years, my family went through a crisis. Everything else in my life, including my business, had to be put on the back burner. Thankfully, life is getting back to normal now. But the one thing I never had to worry about was my business and my monthly commission. I've been a distributor for Longevity for over 17 years, since before it was Longevity. And I've got to say, the most amazing thing about this company is the people. While my family was in crisis, other distributors stepped in and helped my customers, simply because that's what Longevity people do, even for people they don't know. For me, it has never been about getting rich. It was about a product I could stand behind, a company I could count on, and a monthly commission check that has never, not once, been late in 17 years. Longevity is truly a business for everyone, even people who have too much to do. I'm Sophie Winnick. I'm just like you. I have a real life, real ups and downs, but I know I will always have Longevity.
Are you worried about your mom or dad living alone in their house? Hi, I'm Joan London. Listen, I know how difficult it is to find senior care for someone you love. That's why I recommend a free service called A Place for Mom. They are the nation's largest senior living referral service. Call A Place for Mom today.
To receive free information on senior living communities in your area, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-704-6182.
A Place for Mom offers free one-on-one advice from local advisors and a personalized list of senior living communities you can visit. If you have questions about senior care for your mom or dad, there's a place for answers, A Place for Mom.
Call A Place for Mom in the next 10 minutes to get your free ebook on financing senior care, as well as free information on senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-704-6182. That's 1-800-704-6182.
This is Robert Hastings, author of UFOs and Nukes, and you're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Walter Bosley telling us about the interactions with off-world people and the breakaway civilization. Explain more about that, because at the beginning of your book, you talk about ancient astronauts, about the elder ones. So go ahead, please.
Yes, basically in origin, 19th century emergence of the 20th century breakaway civilizations, I say that the extraterrestrial thread and connection to all of this that I talk about in the book is way back in human history, way back. As I was just saying a moment ago, you know, that off-world civilization came here. They brought up Earth human civilization up to a certain level, and when they vacated for whatever reason, that Earth human civilization carried the baton forward and continued developing this technology. to a particular level of advancement, with artificial light and flying machines and, the things you can imagine. And then that civilization, for whatever reason, it could have been the cataclysm, it fell, okay? And then human beings, after that little dark period, so to speak, they began to look for and find the remnants of that fallen civilization that was the product of the off-world influence, and they sought to put this stuff back together and rediscover it and make it work again. And that, of course, leads into what I talk about was going on in the 19th century with the Royal Society, with the Prussian Nimsa and all that, and that led to the two breakaways that I think exist and really are the breakaway civilizations that we're talking about when we're talking about, all this mysterious breakaway civilization stuff in our times. I think it's these two that emerged from the United States and from Germany in the 19th century. And their tradition is that they come from this centuries-long attempt to recapture the lost technology of that forgotten human civilization.
Is this like an Atlantis, Lemuria, or something like that?
It would be this forgotten civilization that I'm talking about, not truly forgotten, of course, when you look at those traditions. This would be that civilization that, we think of as Atlantis. Again, going back to Plato's story of it and stuff, that somewhere at the core of all this Atlantis Lemuria stuff, somewhere in there, in my opinion, is a core of fact that there really was an advanced civilization.
It puts Plato's allegory of the cave into in kind of under a new light.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So to speak. Well, here's an interesting question from Digital Trickster, who always manages to come up with some interesting questions. And he's wondering if you have a sense of what the end game of these breakaway civilization might be. Do you think that they'll continue to just stay behind the scenes pulling strings, and to what end, or that one day they're going to actually reveal themselves? And if so, what would cause that?
I think some compelling circumstance. It would require a compelling circumstance for them to reveal themselves so openly. Now, as I've written, as I've said before, of the two breakaway civilizations which I have examined and presented my opinions on, it is the Prussian one associated with this mysterious Nimsa that I think is more interested in having its hands in our lives, our world as we know it. And their end game, in my opinion, is, essentially domination, political and social. The other one, the one that I call the 1903 or the American group, I think when they took off in the early 20th century, they were sincere about really just wanting to go off and do their own thing. They don't really want to stay here and lord it over us, in my opinion. I think they just wanted to go do their own thing. I can understand that. I probably would do the same thing if I could. But I think the other group, that group that, was started by this Prussian organization called Nimsa, I think they were the ones who were really essentially the power, the influence behind the rise of the Nazis. And I think that this mysterious Nimsa is the organization that's behind the Nazi International, which Joseph Farrell has written extensively about. So, from there you can figure out, whose intentions are what.
It's me thinking about Project Gas Buggy in 1966, where the El Paso Gas Company, in concert with the Atomic Energy Commission, detonated a 47 megaton nuclear device under Dulce. Maybe they were trying to take out an ant's nest instead of free up gas and oil.
Yeah, exactly. Unless it was they were doing some other, sneaky weapons stuff. And they muddied the public perception of that. But who knows? Gene, it goes back to the Darrows and the Taros. Maybe maybe there are some bad Darrows down there, and these stories of these wars and battles have something to them. It's hard to tell.
Now, the other thing is, if there is warfare among breakaway civilizations, plural, how does that impact the surface?
Interesting. Because when you look at that concept, you have to say, wow, it's interesting that if this is going on, they're keeping it, off planet, as near as we can tell. And, at what point would it serve the purpose of one or both of them to just say, screw it, these people need to grow up and know that we exist, or whatever, for whatever purpose. I think it impacts us in our advancement of technology. I think that this advance of technology we've had in the last 100 years, little over 100 years actually now, going on 120, 130 years, I think is what you're talking about. It is a huge clue that these breakaways are out there, and that there is some type of conflict that is driving development of certain, technologies. Now, some people point to the world wars, and they say, well, why didn't they reveal themselves then, particularly in World War II? Well, I've argued, and I say that in a way, NIMSA did through the Nazis. They might not have come out and said, we are the NIMSA and this, that, and the other, but
we come from Ultima Thule.
Yeah, exactly. What they tried to do that with the Nazis. See, they used the Nazis as front guys for whatever reason, or they saw the Nazis as very intelligent, useful idiots. For whatever their objectives
intelligent, useful idiots. That's kind of an oxymoron, isn't it?
No, not really. Let's say highly educated and skilled useful idiots, because the world is full of highly educated and skilled idiots.
Boy, you're telling me.
So,
a lot of them are running for president.
They often do, right?
They are rising to the level of their incompetence.
Well, here's another question from Digital Trickster. Do you think it's possible that one or both of these breakaway civilizations will create a massive global false flag event, such as an alien invasion, as the example he gives? And if so, why would they do this? Just for control purposes, or?
Let me do our break here, and we'll go into the answer from Walter Bosley. The book is Origins. We're learning all about breakaway civilizations and their possible influence on society and the things they're pulling, and more with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter, and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code Night Owl. Use the coupon code Night Owl to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's LEMKEsoft.com. lemkesoft.com. LEMKEsoft.com.
This is David Cordani, CEO of Cigna. For more than 20 years, Cigna has worked with the March of Dimes to address premature births in the U.S. Premature births cause horrible suffering and cost billions of dollars each year. That's why Cigna is committed to raising funds and awareness through our employees, family, and friends to improve the health of moms and babies. Please join us in supporting the March for Babies. Start your team today at marchforbabies.org.
Hunters, anglers, campers, and survivalists. Get back to nature. Expand your horizons with the highest quality, most versatile, unique slingshots and sling bows on the market at slingbow.com. Sling bow products are compact and models start from just $17.98. They're perfect for your bug out bag or storing in your vehicle. Give yourself and your loved ones the excitement and tradition of sling bow. A new frontier in archery and truly modern twist on this primitive survival tool. Feel the thrill only at slingbow.com.
This is an alert. If your business or church is building this year, you're about to pay more than you should. This could mean thousands of dollars more for your office, retail space, church, or warehouse. A General Steel building can save you as much as half the cost and time of similar conventional construction. And we're offering rebates of up to $20,000 to help you build today. Call General Steel for free information that could save you thousands. Call 866-91-STEEL. 866-91-STEEL. 866-91-STEEL.
This is a healthcare alert from the Pain Relief Hotline. If you, a family member, or a loved one suffers from knee, back, shoulder, or ankle pain and have Medicare as your primary insurance, we've got great news. You don't have to suffer any longer. You can immediately qualify for a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost to you by calling our 24/7 Pain Relief Hotline at 866-389-0620. Delivery is free and all paperwork is handled for you. If you are on Medicare and have knee, back, shoulder, or ankle pain, don't wait. You can qualify to immediately receive a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost by calling our 24/7 Pain Hotline now at 866-389-0620. Our representatives are standing by 24/7 to take your call and rush you your pain-relieving brace at little or no cost to you. Shipping is free and all paperwork is handled for you. Just call 866-389-0620. That's 866-389-0620. Again, 866-389-0620.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
Hey, this is Marie D. Jones, the author of This Book is from the Future, and you are listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Grumpy Chris is getting grumpier than ever. I shouldn't have started that, calling him Grumpy Chris. I've created a monster. Before we have Walter's response, by the way, to the question from Digital Trickster, we have a special feature that we offer to our listeners called the Paracast Plus. To find out more, go to plus.theparacast.com, plus.theparacast.com. We offer a commercial-free version of this show with better quality audio, the After the Paracast podcast. Videos are coming. We have one up already. Show transcripts, a lot more. A low subscription rate. As they say with Mad Magazine, our price cheap. Plus.theparacast.com. Walter Bosley, a response to that question.
Okay, yes. I think if any group of the two was going to do such a thing, it would be NIMSA. And I think they already have started doing things like that. Look at 9/11. You know, my position is that 9/11 was an act by NIMSA through the hands of their Nazi International. And that's just one example.
We only think that a group of people from Saudi Arabia under the control of bin Laden did this. The thing I wonder is how you can take people.
They were involved.
They were involved. How so?
They were the first level of a multi-level operation. Let's say they were the Lee Harvey Oswalds of the thing. Now, I'm not saying that releases them of all culpability in their hand in it. Remember, on this level, you had these guys who, even though it was BS, were willing to do this, okay? Whoever it was, they were willing to do their part of it. So to me, that makes them creepy bastards on their own. Now, because they were duped is just delightful to me. The fact that the idea that they were being used and sacrificed and among the slaughter, I find,
Joseph Farrell's new book, he goes
Yes.
even a step further. He says that the puppet string pullers were actually puppets themselves, and their strings were being pulled. I love that. A three-tiered conspiracy.
Yeah, the first level of that were these Saudi Arabian morons, that were willing to do this in the name of their stupidity. And then you had the guys who thought, they were pulling all the strings, that would have been among them would have been and this I find particularly heinous, because being an Air Force officer and being a former OSI agent and being in that structure, I just, words don't describe what I feel about the idea that there were moles providing the information on, this exercise and that deployment and stuff like that. I used to try to hunt those people when I was, on duty in that. But those guys doing all that, they were just being used to make the bigger event happen. They were just facilitating for the third
right,
tier.
which Farrell says was almost an occult ritual.
Yeah. 9/11 was a ritual of human sacrifice on just a massive scale. That's exactly what it was. I've written about that on my blog, empireofthewheel.blogspot.com, a couple of years ago, and I write about it. I include that info in Origin, and I highly recommend Joseph's book, Hidden Finance, Rogue Networks, and Secret Sorcery, The Fascist International, 9/11, and Penetrated Operations. That's Joseph Farrell's most recent book. There's a lot of stuff in there. I've had the good fortune over the last few years. He and I have had many late-night conversations, burning the midnight oil.
Including one in Laughlin, I think, or you, me, Greg, and Joseph were riffing on some stuff.
Yeah, talking about this, and I was so glad to see, his book on it finally come out. But yes, absolutely, I've been convinced that 9/11 was a black magic psyop, and they used an advanced technology to bring those towers down. It was not, Bush and Cheney did not bring those towers down. I mean, and it wasn't guys who, construction demolition technology that did that to those towers. They were disintegrated. They were pulverized and dustified. Joseph and also Joseph Farrell has talked about this. Also, the book by Judy Wood, Where Have the Towers Gone, is just so essential for people interested in this to take a look at. It's there, but admittedly, it's one of those things that is so big and so bizarre that I totally understand when people just reject it, when they just spit it out of their mouth, and I understand when that concept pisses some people off. I totally get it, because it is something that it can really scare the hell out of people on a level that they think there's no hope and all that stuff.
It's beyond the pale.
Now, let me ask you here. Then, if this is what happened with 9/11, does that mean that Bush and Cheney were influenced by these other forces, or just took advantage of the civilization to attack Afghanistan and Iraq?
Both.
Wow, that's I don't go too deep into the weeds on the whole Bush and Cheney thing. They don't. They didn't. They don't scare me. I never really lost sleep over those two.
Dick Cheney frightens the hell out of me.
It is exactly what it is. These are people that are they're on that level of political power, and we all know that in general, particularly in our times, the last 50 or 60 years, you've got to, and this is by no means new. Not like it didn't go on before then, but particularly in our times. They have to
power corrupts. Ultimate power corrupts. Absolutely.
They have to swim in dirty waters, and whatever. I think I was in Iraq and during the war, and it dawned on me then when I'm standing at the top of the ziggurat of Ur, the reconstructed ziggurat of Ur, that I realized, wait a minute, isn't it interesting that all the places where we've had major battles and stuff like that, it seems like is where these interesting these lost civilization stories and wonders of the war, that kind of thing. Gosh, are they actually trying to recapture stuff like that? And
we all know we went into Iraq to find the Stargates and appropriate them for the next sci-fi series show,
and to also establish roots for that military-industrial economy. To boot, on top of what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely.
We got to sell bullets. We got to sell bombs. Make lots of money. Get a guy paid $30,000 to fire a $500,000 weapon at a guy that makes $5 a week. I just love the irony.
Now, let me ask you here, since that's where it all began with the Iraq War, the Islamic State, the rise of the Islamic State, which I think some trace back to 2004 with a split off from Al-Qaeda. Is that just things taking their course, or are there influences from these underground civilizations?
Oh, this did not actually more a particular breakaway civilization, to be specific. The Iraq War is not where ISIS began, and Afghanistan is not really the beginning of the tradition of Al Qaeda and such. This again has been, in the details have been laid out by Joseph Farrell, and I know some people hate when I refer to his stuff. Too bad. This ties to the Nazis, and not just the proposed Nazi International, to the actual World War II known Nazis. They are the ones who really, Otto Skorzeny was among this, who really pushed the modern concept of jihad. Yeah. We can thank
in the 40s.
The World War II. Yeah, we can thank the World War II era Nazis for this modern jihad philosophy of jihad that we have been dealing with. And it's not that it started with the Iraq War. It started with 9/11. 9/11 was the sort of the blackmail operation on top of the the magic thing. It was, you will do this and this from now on, and from there the world has just been nothing but a lot of mostly a crap hole for the last 16 years.
Well, I find it interesting that the Defense Department's radical group is being armed by us to fight another armed group that's being under the control of the intelligence agencies, and the only winners in this whole thing are the weapons manufacturers and the ammunition companies.
They just like Eisenhower said, right?
Let's do our break, and we'll get more into that. With Gene and Chris and Walter Bosley, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
If you want to get your website online and you need reliable service, first-class service at the lowest possible price, there's only one place to go. Well, DreamHost has a special promotion with our show where they'll offer you unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, one-click web apps such as WordPress, 24/7 support. You can save over $55. You want to know how? Go to dreamhost.com/radio, dreamhost.com/radio.
Has your body ever gone low blood sugar, feeling weak, shaky, knowing you better eat something fast? We all know high blood sugar can lead to many metabolic problems. At GCNteam.com, we have a healthy blood sugar pack, focusing on the structure and function of stable blood sugar. Find us at GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. Nothing feels worse than unstable blood sugar. Call 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pileski of the Pileski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Military conspiracies. But you bring back a very interesting subject here. Eisenhower, and you think this guy would be part of the military-industrial complex because he was a general. So his career is over. He's finishing his presidency. He's warning against the rise of the military-industrial complex.
Yes, indeed.
Why did he do that? Did he fear there would be repercussions, or did he feel at this point, look, I've done my work. I'm an old man. They can't do anything. I'm just going to tell the story.
Yeah, on the personal level, I think he felt that he was in the last phase of his life. So really, what could they do to him? You know, remember, he was a good Army officer and a military officer. You know, you weigh the risks. And he determined that the risk was that what he was trying to achieve by saying what he said was worth the risk for the good that he hoped it would do. You know, he was trying to plant a seed in the public's mind and awaken them to this thing that he saw growing that he feared, rightly so, would get its tendrils and a good grip on our political machine, on our government, and push us in directions that would, you know, be bad for us. He saw that. You know, I think Kennedy, of course, saw it too. You know, Kennedy didn't want to get so deeply involved in Vietnam. Well, the military-industrial complex profited greatly from Vietnam.
Well, they signed the Bell helicopter deal, I think, the day after or 2 days after he was assassinated.
Oh, yeah. LBJ, the obvious beneficiary of that assassination, and I'll say the witting beneficiary of that assassination. Yeah, he did a bunch of stuff before Kennedy hadn't been in the ground very long when LBJ was doing this.
One thing about Eisenhower, I think he could have gone even further with his admonishments and cautionary statements. It's not like you're going to take away the pension of an ex-president who was also a five-star general.
Well, remember, this would have been the early days of their influence, on that shadowy level. And who knows why he didn't go further. Maybe that was all he knew. Maybe with the extent to which he saw it was what he shared. You know, it was a suspicion at the time. Or maybe he was still afraid of what they might do to him. But then think about this. Maybe he was afraid of what they would do to his family and others.
Laura Eisenhower. We'll make her into a chrononaut and send her to Mars with Barack Obama.
Wait, that didn't happen?
Well, she says it did. And and with Andrew Basiago, and they were trained by Ed Dames. Don't forget. Who went on Coast to Coast and said, "I don't know who these people are. Don't." But I digress.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Grumpy Chris is trying to be funny Chris now. Well, I don't know. It's all very intriguing, and I think there's a lot of people with their heads in the sand, and the deeper the heads go, the more of a chance they have to break into an antediluvian tunnel system.
Yeah, one would think so. One would think so. I would love to, like I said, I'm really intrigued. This is why I finally decided I've got to address this. I wrote the article that was published in Fate magazine under my then pseudonym because my employment at the time was sensitive. So I wasn't writing anything with my real name on it. And I did this, I had done some fiction, and I released the article under my fiction pseudonym. And it was published in Fate magazine, and it was selected for their Best of Roswell volume. And so it's been out there. I've talked about it over the years. I've alluded to it in a couple of my books, but I decided, you know what, I really have to dig into this and, address the details of it and really state where I stand on this issue of, my dad's story. People ask me, well, do you agree with his version of events and what he's saying? And I have to say that there is much more evidence for, and here it comes to my critics. I'm giving them, a heads up. Here it comes. The best evidence for what Roswell might have been, we go back to Joseph Farrell and his book that continues to be ignored and is hated by the ET people. They hate it. I might add the most vocal critics that I have encountered of Joseph's Roswell and the Reich, they admit in the conversation that they've never read the book. I don't know how you can trash something and just dismiss it without having read it. But really, honestly, on this issue of Roswell, to just comment on that, the best book, the most thoroughly researched, the most thoroughly filled out theory on Roswell has been Joseph Farrell's theory that it was the post-war Reich, the early days of this Nazi international. And no other Roswell book, most of the other Roswell books go on, witness testimony. Well, you guys know, all of us know, and Kevin Randall was talking about it recently, that, the Roswell witness testimony has turned out to be mostly, unreliable and in some cases just a load of crap. So, I see the Reich theory, the post-war Reich Nazi international theory of Roswell to be so far the best presented. Now that would dispute what my dad's story is, or was. So personally, I have to admit, I have to acknowledge, the more thoroughly presented theory with more evidence, tangible evidence you can put your fingers on, and that my dad's story is admittedly, in the fantastic realm. He certainly believed it, and I discussed that in the new book.
It's kind of hard to misconstrue a guy standing next to you being dropped by an exotic weapon. I mean, that would leave a lasting impression, I would think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. Now, and remember what I used to do. People know I was an OSI agent, and I was, got my training and had experience in interview and interrogation techniques, and among them are the tools you're given to better determine, nothing is 100% now, but to better determine if someone is telling the truth as they believe it, as they, if they're telling you, in the case of my dad, I am convinced that he was telling me the truth as it happened for him. Now, why am I saying that? Again, I'm going to be going into this in the new book. It might be that his memory certainly could have been convoluted by things put in there. I can tell you, I know at the time I was in OSI in the late 90s, hypnosis was a tool that OSI would use it was in a collections interview technique that was on the books. It was a tool that was in the toolbox. Now, what I think about that in light of what we're talking about is, okay, if hypnosis, if they used hypnosis, there's what my uncle told me that was used on my dad to assist, you might say, in him not talking about certain things was hypnosis, a hypnotic tool. Okay. Now, how easy would it have been for them to plant some of the more fantastical elements of his story into his memory of it during that hypnosis. See? So it might be that to a certain extent what he's saying are, these little core facts and nuggets. And again, what I've thrown out there, I will be going deeper into in the book. Okay. I'm not just going to throw that out there and not extrapolate on it in the book. But it could be that what my dad was telling me is memory of actual events that has been peppered or seasoned with more fantastical elements. Why would they do that? So that, years later when this control starts breaking down and he starts blabbing about it to his son, it seems less credible, right? Because of the fantastic elements. There would be your motivation there for putting, such ideas into someone's head.
A little post-hypnotic suggestion.
We have a post-hypnotic suggestion for you, but you'll forget it after these announcements. With Walter Bosley and Gina and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
If you want to get your website online and you need reliable service, first-class service at the lowest possible price, there's only one place to go. Well, DreamHost has a special promotion with our show where they'll offer you unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, one-click web apps such as WordPress, 24/7 support. You can save over $55. You want to know how? Go to dreamhost.com/radio, dreamhost.com/radio.
Are you worried about your mom or dad living alone in their house? Hi, I'm Joan London. Listen, I know how difficult it is to find senior care for someone you love. That's why I recommend a free service called A Place for Mom. They are the nation's largest senior living referral service. Call A Place for Mom today.
To receive free information on senior living communities in your area, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-704-6182.
A Place for Mom offers free one-on-one advice from local advisors and a personalized list of senior living communities you can visit. If you have questions about senior care for your mom or dad, there's a place for answers, A Place for Mom.
Call A Place for Mom in the next 10 minutes to get your free ebook on financing senior care as well as free information on senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-704-6182. That's 1-800-704-6182.
So you've got to take a state construction license exam or certification. Can't decide on what books or what chapters to study? Discover right now how you can eliminate unnecessary books and wasted study time. At contractorexam.com, our study materials zero in on state-required test topics in an effective, multiple-choice format. So whether you're a plumber, electrician, general contractor, or other construction-related trade, contractorexam.com will help get you prepared. Visit us at www.contractorexam.com today. My computer is so slow, it's making me crazy.
I used to have that problem.
Did you quit using the computer or did you buy a new one?
No, I called Geeks On Site. They made an appointment to visit my home and showed up the same day.
You mean they didn't ask you to bring your computer to a shop? That's what happened when I called a support company.
Geeks On Site can go to your home or business or even repair your computer online. They have 24/7 emergency service.
If you are having problems with your PC or Mac, call Geeks On Site, 1-800-591-1682. Our friendly certified computer repair experts are available 24/7. Call now for a free diagnosis, 1-800-591-1682. Data recovery, virus removal, and maintenance for all laptops, desktops, printers, and networks. That's Geeks On Site for friendly certified computer repair experts available 24/7 over the phone or in your home or business. Just call 1-800-591-1682. That's 1-800-591-1682, 1-800-591-1682.
Vaping enthusiasts, head to VaporPalace.com. Choose from over 150 flavors and a selection of exclusive private stock vapor liquid you won't find anywhere else. New flavors are added every month, and our customer service is unbeatable. VaporPalace.com offers 15% off all vapor liquid on Fridays and get 10% off every order with coupon code VAPOR10 at checkout. Combine the codes on Fridays for 25% off. The ultimate destination for the vaping enthusiast. VaporPalace.com.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So...
that was a good one, Gene.
You like that one, huh?
You will not hear the commercials.
The only way you will not hear the commercials is if you subscribe to the Paracast Plus at plus.theparacast.com. This is a recording. I don't know. So after all the talk about these breakaway civilizations, you've done it, Joseph Farrell has done it. If you were hitting close to the mark, do you fear that some outside force would try to stop you? Or is it just lost in the noise?
I think that to a great extent, they just let it be out there to get lost in the noise because they know that most people are not going to take it seriously. I think that initially, if they emerge and approach you or whatever, I don't think it's a malevolent approach. I think it's more of a subtle type of contact, just to feel you out and see where you're really at, to see how you react to the ambiguity of someone walking up to you in a park on a Sunday morning and having a very interesting chat relevant to research you'd been doing.
Has that happened to you? Have you had a encounter with someone that said maybe you're starting to talk about some things that most people don't have a need to know, or however the terminology would be languaged?
It's certainly within the realm of possibility that that has, or it could even be, someone would, want to introduce you to a friend of theirs, and that friend is connected to, certain players that are also very interesting, and they let you know that they've been watching you, and they let you know this in an indirect way by pretending to talk about a third party, but it just so happens that third party's activities that they're talking about in front of you are things you've been doing. Yeah.
Well, that's what Bryce Zabel claims. He had kind of a interesting little run-in during the Dark Skies television show that he was producing back in the 90s. He said he had a very disconcerting couple of encounters, such as you described. But so it really hasn't happened to you, but you don't dismiss the possibility that it could.
I'll tell you what, I prefer not to comment on that because, I think,
an ill wind blows no man good.
I don't. You know what? Here's my thing. My policy has been for a few years now to just not talk about certain things, in a public forum, and it has served me well. And I keep on doing that. What I can and am willing to talk about, I put into the books.
So if I start asking you questions about psychotronic weapons platforms, behavior modification, and societal manipulation technology, we probably wouldn't have too long of a conversation.
Probably because I don't know any more about that than you do. As far as, here's the thing about personal experiences, okay? When you're a researcher, you know this well, Chris, okay? You dig into something deep enough and long enough, interesting players and characters are going to emerge. And I think you also know that certain things, the less you are open about them, the more you get. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the only time I ran into problems is when I was dealing with underground facilities.
Yeah,
Interestingly enough.
but it's like this, you can go back to the Danny Casolaro story in the Octopus and what happened with him, and these people that these bad things happen to, they were given warnings. It wasn't like they were just going along investigating and writing and then all of a sudden they're suicided. They warn you. They tell you to shut up about certain things.
Right.
Before,
like the guy that wrote Unfortunate Son, or Gary Webb from the Sun Mercury Times, or I mean, we could go down a whole list of.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I haven't had anybody walk up to me and tell me, knock it off, shut up. Believe me, if someone comes up to me and says, hey, we're going to, kill your son or your mom or you, it's like, hey, I think I'll start writing that next pulp novel, I'm not stupid. I don't want to go, I don't want to be suicided, because I'm stubborn.
Well, the thing is, too, if they did do something to you, that would only confirm a lot of what you said was true. It's easier to just leave you alone.
Yeah, exactly. It is easier. I think, over time, these guys, I say these guys with quotes around it, they've learned that with certain things in this realm, with these certain things that, just leave them alone, because who's going to believe it? They're worried about a critical mass of the population figuring something out or learning something or believing something. That's what they're worried about. And until there's a critical mass, they just, whatever.
80% of the American population doesn't even know that a third building fell on 9/11, just to give you I don't think critical mass is really – I think there's anti-critical mass. People get so dumb that they actually are, they go full circle and they become smart.
Yeah. What I do is I just look into stuff that interests me. I pull threads, and the parts that end up in books are the parts that I feel that I can or should put in the books.
Yeah, and they also might have some evidence to back them up too, hopefully.
Well, see, there you go. The stuff that goes into the books, I try to present either, the direct or hard evidence, or at least when I'm speculating, I try to provide why I'm speculating this. And I'd like to say, occasionally I get the knucklehead who, I can't buy, Bosley, there's too much conjecture. He speculates, as if they didn't know that I'm speculating, when, if you've read my books, I have increasingly just made it very clear, like I'm hitting the reader over the head with a club, that the following is speculation. Anybody who would read my speculations and claim not to have known that they were going into speculation, they're just playing their own game, or they're ignorant. They're not really reading the books. But, and I'm glad you brought that up about, you hope there's evidence behind it. That's the thing. What I put in the books are, again, the things that I hope that the evidence I presented justifies, putting it out there for public consumption,
Qualified speculation is expected in this realm. I mean, there's no way to get around it.
Yeah, anybody who would, come on. I'm not fooling myself. Anybody who would pick up my book Origin, 20th Century Breakaway Civilizations, with a Del Shao arrow and a flying saucer image on the front, anybody that would, come on, and not expect that they're going to, see some speculation. That's just one of these, millennial skeptic drum club little weenies who, they're angry at dad for whatever reason, and they've got to grind an axe on somebody's head. But
their Xbox broke.
Yeah, their Xbox broke, and it's like I don't even know why they swim in these waters.
We're going to sink if we don't swim.
Yeah.
We have a couple of more segments left with Walter Bosley and Grumpy Chris and Gene. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Pete, non-attorney spokesperson. Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas, is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
Water is the single most important thing your body needs, so you want to be sure it's the best for you and your family. Since 2005, thousands have depended on Berkey purified water. The Berkey Guy provides the lowest priced filtration systems in every size. For incredibly delicious water now and in an emergency, get to GoBerkey.com or call 877-886-3653. 877-886-3653. GoBerkey.com.
I'm Nick Soboleski, a Select Quote agent with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a $300,000 group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and can't take it with him. Well, I impartially shopped the highly rated term life insurance companies we represent and found Ray, who is 41 and takes medication to control his cholesterol, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $26 a month. That's almost twice the coverage for less than half of what he had paid. If SelectQuote hasn't shopped for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 1-800-403-4885. That's 1-800-403-4885. 1-800-403-4885. Or go to SelectQuote.com. We shop, you save. Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Your price could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Imagine your life 5 years from now. Are you on the path you want to be on? It's time to take control of your future by getting a world-class education from one of the nation's top universities. Arizona State University is now offering over 100 top-tier degree programs 100% online. It's the exact same degree our on-campus students receive, but you can learn from anywhere in the country on your own schedule. For information, call 1-800-939-9634. Learn from ASU's world-renowned faculty and use ASU's global recognition to improve your visibility, professional network, and gain real-world experience you can start using today. The Wall Street Journal ranked ASU 5th in the nation for producing the best qualified graduates. Now discover how ASU Online can stand out on your resume and help separate you from the competition. We're ready to help you learn to thrive in your life, in your career, and beyond. To learn more about ASU online degrees, call 1-800-939-9634. That's 1-800-939-9634.
Hi, this is Ron Paul. I'm a former 22-year congressman and Republican presidential candidate. I'm here to tell you about something that just might save your lives. You never know when there will be another Katrina, an economic collapse, or a serious drought. We should all have a little food storage that will carry us through tough times. I'm going to tell you about a great way to do that. A U.S. company named Harvest Right has a kitchen appliance that can help you be prepared. It's a home freeze dryer. With the product, you can preserve the foods your family loves. And the best part is the food will last 25 years and still taste great. I've tried it and it's amazing. With a home freeze dryer from Harvest Right, you can literally freeze dry anything you eat, even things like ice cream. To learn more, call Harvest Right today at 800-594-4635 or go to harvestright.com. That's 800-594-4635 or harvestright.com.
This is Jerome Clark, author of the UFO Encyclopedia and other books. You're listening to the Paracast.
He gets grumpier and grumpier, Chris O'Brien.
Well, I've been working on that, Gene.
It's enlightenment.
I'm trying to give myself an attitude makeover.
It's not going to help. So when you look at all this and all this information you've come across, what do you think about the general flavor of the UFO field where we all expect ET is going to come down and save us, or there will be disclosure. Obama is the latest one. Obama, before he leaves office, will disclose the truth. What do you think about that stuff?
And vote for Hillary because she's going to disclose it and blah, blah, blah. This whole disclosure thing, it was a trend, a fad that I think its time needs to end. It's not going to happen. When it happens, it's going to be on the terms of the ETs themselves, okay? This disclosure thing is a good shtick that generates what its purveyors want to generate, and and the ET hypothesis. Here's the thing. I totally accept that there are ETs out there. Duh. Look at what I've written, listen to things I've said. But I think that ufology, with this one-note song that it must be the ET hypothesis or nothing else, it's hurt itself and it's hurt the field. It's time for ufology to step away from that, if not 100%, which it shouldn't step away probably 100%, but it needs to start, looking in some other directions. Here's the thing. The value of looking in other directions, going outside your box, is that you could very well find the evidence out there that supports the theory in your box. This is what they're childishly and stubbornly refusing to do. What they don't realize is that I learned this as a criminal investigator. Think outside the box, go outside the box, and what do you know? Sometimes you find the very evidence that fits what's in the box.
One is reminded of the Calvin and Hobbes cartoon where Calvin is saying the sure sign that there's intelligent life elsewhere in the universe is that none of it's come here to visit us.
So yeah, that's good. That's good.
Fermi's paradox in reverse, I think. I'm not sure.
That said, this is why this recent talk you guys had with Kevin Randall. He was on recently, right, with you guys?
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm not getting my shows mixed up. Yeah, that's right, because I commented in the forum. I found, some people were jaded because, he's turned his back on the ET thing, blah, 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 Roswell. Personally, I found it refreshing that there was Randall saying, hey, you know what? This ET thing might not be the answer to Roswell, or all the lore and the, what's the word for it? The dogma that we've had of Roswell as an ET incident. Maybe that's been a false religion.
I think Joseph Farrell really hit the nail on the head. The reason why they freaked out so much is because it was terrestrial technology and they had no idea where it came from.
Exactly. And, there you go. I don't see how anybody interested in Roswell can read Joseph's book, Roswell and the Reich, and just dismiss it. All that is childish, stubborn insistence on you want your Santa Claus story to be true.
Well, it's religious belief. Once you start shaking the doctrine and shaking the doctrine tree, people tend to their eyes glaze over and their knees start getting sore from genuflecting.
And then they throw out their scripture of, well, what about this? What about that? Well, most of the this and that they point to has either already been discredited as crap, or it's stuff that's so far out into the weeds that it doesn't serve as evidence to support the theory. I hate to say it, but it's, as far as ufology is concerned, the ET hypothesis, it's kind of like a Star Trek TV series. It needs to go away for a while. And then, come back fresh. Well, the ET hypothesis in ufology kind of needs to not be the center of attention, not be the forefront. It needs to not be the measure of, whether, those circles are going to accept you or not. It needs to just be pushed aside for the time being and other things looked at and considered. But, there's some people that are going to kick and scream and
write me the emails saying, how dare you attack the ET hypothesis? You don't realize you're disenfranchising yourself from a huge potential audience out there. And it's
who gives – I got news from – who gives a damn? Because there's just as big an audience out there that will be interested in some of these other possibilities. So, this nonsense at the ET hypothesis crowd, that they're the congregation and, you'll be whatever on the.
Hey,
on the
I'm going right to the altar this weekend. I'm going to go out to Conflict in the Desert and do a Fear and Loathing in Joshua Tree video project.
Conflict. I love that. Conflict in the Desert. That is beautiful. That's only like an hour away from me.
You should come out, Walter. You should come out, man. We'll hang.
I should go out and crash it.
Yeah, we'll have fun. We'll go around and interview people and film everybody in their alien costumes and the overflowing
when is that? Is that
porta potties.
Is that this weekend?
Yeah.
Now, understand here, if you actually pay to go, it's like $250.
Yeah, I won't be doing that.
You want me to go in and listen to David Wilcock talk about the current space war going on above our heads right now? Or
I wouldn't pay $2.50 to hear that.
They'd have to pay me.
Exactly. I'll be Gene. If I were, unfortunately I have some family stuff to do this weekend. Damn it! But I'd be crawling under the fence. Is how I'd be there. Like I said, crashing it. But
yeah.
Well, you're a former agent. You know how it's done.
I know how to do that, right? I wouldn't have to crawl under the fence. I used to be pretty good at just calmly slipping in through authorized personnel areas of the public world pretty easily.
Hey, I used to get backstage at all the concerts at the Garden because I'd
go.
Blank silk, the silk material that they make the backstage passes, and a whole tray of magic markers, and I'd scrutinize the backstage pass, and then I'd do a reasonable facsimile.
There you go. Same skills, same skill set. Same skill set. I was just backed up by the U.S. government. That's all.
Right. Sanctioned.
Yeah, sanctioned. Yeah, that's it. So,
I'm going to burn a bunch of tape and put together a nice hard-hitting piece on the folly of what do they call it? The Woodstock of ufology.
Jesus.
Ufology.
Ufology. But now there's going to be people that I'm going to be getting those hate mails like you get, Chris.
Well, I don't get hate mail. They bitch and moan. Well, you're so grumpy. You're always so down on everything and everybody. And it's like, well, give me something to be up about.
I got a long letter from somebody who didn't want to join Paracast Plus, but may join it anyway to help us all out. But their big point is that you were getting grumpier and grumpier, and it was more and more difficult to listen to you. And I don't think that at all. I try and maintain even keel because I am a professional announcer.
I think there's just some people out there that come on, we're dealing with this, we're belabored with this in our society, this hypersensitivity. There's namby-pams. There's just too many namby-pams out there. Grow a hide. I don't find Chris to be grumpy Chris at all when I've listened.
Well, I'm a little cynical and jaded, but grumpy, I don't know. It just, when I think grumpy, I think of, some old codger sitting there, trying to find his teeth and, he needs new glasses, and
that might be us in a couple of years, right?
I'm not really grumpy. I'm just, I'm over all the religious belief parts of this. It's getting to a point where you go online, you just have to quickly avert your eyes from. Yeah,
there's like a whole generation in the ufology world that they've seen close encounters in ET one too many times. They really are, it's going to be just like Richard Dreyfuss. They're going to come get me. They're going to take me.
Well, that's what happened to Richard Dreyfuss. That's what happened to his career, I think. We have Walter Bosley and Gene and Chris for one more segment. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats, I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code Night Owl. Use the coupon code Night Owl to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's LEMKEsoft.com. lemkesoft.com. LEMKEsoft.com.
Looking for that edge during those intimate moments? We see many ads for enhancement, but the side effects include death. At GCN Team, we should change the Healthy Body, Brain, and Heart Pack to the Healthy Libido Pack. The brain and heart are not the only organs that require a healthy vascular system. For proper blood flow at the right moment, go to GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203.
There's nothing more enticing and intoxicating than the finest meat cooking on an open flame. Freeze-dried meat from newharvest.com is U.S. grown, 100% all-natural with no extra fillers. Just grass-fed beef and free-range chicken guaranteed to stay fresh and delicious. Add New Harvest freeze-dried meats to your current food storage. You'll buy direct from the factory, not a third party, ensuring the best price and the highest quality. See all our products at newharvestfoods.com. That's newharvestfoods.com.
Worried about lead, fluoride, and other contaminants in your drinking water? Get a ProPure with the Pro 1G 2.0 cleanable reusable filter and remove up to 200 contaminants. Drink water the way nature meant it to be. Clean, crisp, and refreshing. See the complete line of ProPure products, including the new ProMax shower filter. There's a ProPure for you. Visit your authorized ProPure dealer for details or ProPureUSA.com. That's ProPureUSA.com.
Dangerous blood clot device alert. If you or a loved one had an IVC filter placed to prevent blood clots from traveling to your heart or lungs and suffered an injury, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. The FDA warns that IVC filters may cause serious complications, such as heart or lung damage, internal bleeding, and even death. These dangerous blood clot devices can break, and the metal fragments can travel to your heart or lungs, causing serious injuries. If you or a loved one suffered organ damage or other injuries from an IVC filter, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Act now. Time is limited to file a claim. For a free consultation and free information, call Injury Help Desk at 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. This is an advertisement. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. InjuryHelpDesk.com is responsible for this advertisement. Principal office, Las Vegas, Nevada.
By now you know that wireless technology like cell phones do in fact pose dangers to the health and privacy of everyone. Block-It Pocket's wide range of products are unmatched in providing the protection you deserve. No scare tactics, just common sense. BlockItPocket.com offers quality American-made options to alleviate and eliminate these invisible dangers. Learn more at BlockItPocket.com or call 888-315-9618. BlockItPocket.com, enhancing health and privacy.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Okay, so I don't know. His career was still pretty good after that, Richard Dreyfuss.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, he played Dick Cheney in a movie, didn't he? W.
Yeah, he did. He did a good job, too, although
I
it was a
haven't
little
seen
bland.
that movie yet. I'm going to have to Netflix that, believe it or not. That one came out, I think, when I was still in my out of the country a lot phase. So there's a lot of movies and stuff that I missed.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You know, let's just get back to this. Any more questions, Chris, in the till?
There's another one from Greer's Meeting Planner.
Uh-huh.
I just can't get over that name. From Sydney, Australia. You make some assertions when talking about Delshow's aero drawings. For example, domes on the pictures are not balloons. Uh-huh. And you talk about the maneuvering capability of the craft, I guess, of the drawing that you have there, and that they have anti-gravity technology. His question is, how do you know from just looking at drawings that they have these capabilities?
I don't know from just looking at drawings. This is from Delshow's own commentary. I guess there's some folks that they're not aware that Delshow, he kept a diary, a journal of his experience with the Sonora Aero Club. This comes from his own descriptions of witnessing these things fly and what he said they were. So that comes from more than just looking at the drawings. And it's fascinating stuff. If the questioner is not familiar with it, I recommend the Dennis Crenshaw book, Secrets of Delshow. Yeah. And I especially recommend the gallery book that Stephen Romano has put out, The Art of Delshow. That includes some of the diary entries and pages, and it's like the best presented collection of the Delshow art. It's an amazing book. It's worth every dime. But yeah, this comes from what we're told is witness testimony of what these things did and what they were.
Wow, that's way ahead of the technology curve.
Indeed, it is.
Here's one from Cyan Flosser, and I guess he or she has some teeth issues, but. Several years ago on Radio Misterioso, you mentioned something you'd heard from a former colleague about U.S. stealth aircraft operations. And basically, it's a long question, but the upshot of it is that there was some sense that we send something in prior to the strike aircraft. And Greg suggested on the show that possibly holography was a possible explanation of what we send in prior to shock and awe type operations. At the time, you weren't really that. You were a little reluctant to address that, but what can you tell us about something akin to some sort of high technology that we utilize along with conventional technology in that manner?
What I said on that is what I'm aware of on that, and that's the extent to which I'm willing to discuss that.
Let me ask you just parenthetically. We have another talk show host who is the most popular talk show host on this network, Alex Jones, who stock in trade is conspiracy theories, false flags, 9/11. Do you think he's on to anything with that?
In a general sense, anybody who goes that direction is going to come across these things that they're onto the right track. Now, he specifically, I find his presentation to be, sensational, and that I don't think serves perhaps what he's trying to convey well for most people. But to some degree, he's onto something, but I think there's other people out there that are onto more.
Yeah, and have been for a while.
Yeah.
What do you think of Tom DeLonge in this, the Blink-182 frontman and his kind of grandstanding comments about having inside in military sources and people in aerospace? And what do you think about someone like a celebrity such as a Tom DeLonge coming along and trying to, sort of steal a bunch of headlines and limelight in a subject that, deservedly should be getting more attention. But do you feel that kind of attention and that figureheading approach is really, do you think it's beneficial or do you think it detracts from the subject?
Unfortunately, here's the thing. I think Tom DeLonge is very sincere, about his interests and his pursuits of this stuff. I really do. I think he's sincere about it to an extent that he can get some media attention, that he can, through that, shed some light, more brighter light on these subjects that we are interested in. However, unfortunately, I think that, someone like him can be easily used by essentially disinformation agents or people who have impressive credentials from, this military industrial world, and they're just, for whatever reason, they just want attention, and this is their chance to manipulate